I don't think any of us in this room that are battling with sickness, even right now, our desire is not to be treated, is it? Our desire is to be cured. And therefore, what you have to do is go to God. But you know what God's going to do when you go to him? He's going to say, get on my plan. Get on my plan. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you go to see a physician to be treated or in your mind cured, don't they give you a plan? Even if their plan is take this pill 3 times a day. Is it not a plan? Yes. Right. So when they give you that plan, don't they make it clear? You need to stick to the plan. You don't want a heart attack? Stick to the plan. You don't want a recurrence of your cancer? Stick to the plan. And we understand that on a very earthly level. What God is trying to say is that I have a plan. And if you want to do well, you need to stick to my plan. Now, let's go to Luke 18. I want to settle this once again, because I have found that often can I speak a little straight to you this evening? Is that all right? I find that often we are chock full of excuses. Listen, folks, I'm a man of like passions like you, and I might actually accept your excuse, but God won't. And I want you to understand that God knows your circumstance, but sometimes we still live in the world of excuses. Sometimes we make excuses for things that we know we can do. Maybe you can't do it like someone else does it, but you can do something. And so Luke 18 helps us with this. And I want to really deal with this. Luke 18, right there in verse 27. The Bible says in Luke 18 and verse 27, it says the things that are what? Impossible with men are possible with God. Do you believe that? So this is the key. What is impossible in your natural humanity is possible when humanity meets with divinity. This is what the scripture teaches. You know, my family and I, we live in a beautiful mountainside of Massachusetts. And sometimes when we have to go into town to do shopping, I notice something. It can be cold outside. Much cooler than this. I'm talking like 30 degrees, 25 degrees outside, 20 degrees. What I find to be very interesting is that when we turn down the road, it's amazing how many people you see outside exercising. But the one guy that gets my attention every time, his physique is not up like this. This is not his physique. His physique is more hunched like that. His arm, for some reason, is constantly in this position. And when you look at him, he looks like he is at least 70 or 80 years old. And what my wife and I will see when we drive down that road, and my children as well, is we'll be at the beginning of a road, and you'll see that man, and he's just doing it, just like that. And he's running. Now, his run looks nothing like my run. I could easily outrun him. But that's not his concern, is it? His concern is I'm going to do the best in my reality. And I often will tell my wife and my children, I said, that man is a rebuke to every person that says that they can't get out their house and do some walking. He's a rebuke to all of us. That man, crippled, clearly, he's clearly crippled. But he says, I'm not going to let that stop me. I have a drive, and I have a passion to live, and I have a drive, and I have a passion to be healthy, and therefore I'm going to do the best that I can, even if it's a little trot with my arm out like this and everything else, and so on. My friends, listen. Our great challenge. Now, I don't know if he's a religious man. I don't know. He just might be a man with a lot of determination. But if any of us in this room are religious people, why do you keep saying things are impossible that God says it's possible? I don't care if you have a walker and all you can do is just go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You do the best you can in your circumstance. But what's unfortunate is when you just sit down and that voice says you need to get out and you need to exercise, and you say, I just really am not up to it. It's like, I understand that. No, listen, folks. 2 years ago, I laid on a surgical table, and I had a saw run across my chest and spread my rib cage wide open. And I remember God providentially sent someone to me God providentially sent someone to me before my surgery. They said, listen, when you get in this hospital, do you want to get out of this hospital? I said, yes. He said, watch my words, Dwayne. He says, you need to walk. Now, the best news in the world was that I was already a walker and I was already doing exercise before I got to the hospital. So the habit was ingrained. But I remember the day after my surgery. I mean, you're talking about split your chest open on Tuesday. It was Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, I got tubes coming out of my chest. I got tubes coming out right here. And those tubes are coming out and going into a machine. Your body feels drained. I'm anemic for the first time in my life. I've never been anemic before. And I remember that nurse came in the room and he said, Mr. Levin, how you doing? I said, I'm doing all right. He said, it's time to walk. And I said, I don't feel like it. And he was like, I understand that, but you need to walk. I said, I don't feel like it. You know, it wasn't like the most cooperative patient, but nevertheless, I was like, nah, man, I said, I don't feel like I'm wiped out. He said, Mr. Lemon, he said, listen, can I tell you some truth? I said, yeah. He said, you just went through heart surgery, Mr. Lemon. He says, we need to get you out of the hospital. The hospital is not the best place to heal. The hospital is great for procedures, but it's bad for healing. That was a very honest statement. Then he said, Mr. Lemon, if you don't walk, you increase your chances of over 50% of getting a blood clot, and you can have a heart attack right in this bed and die. And when he said that to me, I was like, get the chair, man, let's walk. I got out of that thing. Brothers and sisters, you don't understand. That's why I'm telling you, I mean, I could do a backflip in this room right now if I want to. But that time, it was effort just to get out of the bed. Take your feet. And I remember I had to hold on to that machine that was taking my blood and doing whatever else it was doing. And I remember that I would walk around like this room right here. I would just walk here and go all the way to the back and just come back here. It would feel like I ran a marathon. That's just where my energy was and everything. And I was just like, wow. But you know what? Every time I walked across the room, I would walk past people's rooms and I would watch them just laid out on the bed from their heart surgeries. I was in critical cardiac unit. So everybody had heart surgery. And I watched all those people laid out. And I remember that day. And I thank God for that. That nurse was an angel to me. That nurse came into the room and said, all right, Mr. Lemon, let's do it. So I started walking. And, you know, I'm just not feeling it at all. But I'm doing it because it got to get done. And then I walk all the way around. And I come back and I'm like, whew, can I sit down now? He's like, you can sit down, man. Go ahead. And I'll just sit down and enjoy the rest of my day. And I remember day 2. God gave me the same nurse again. Now that normally didn't happen. You always get a new nurse. He gave me the same nurse. And he said, hey man, I'm back. And I was like, all right, what's going on? He says, it's time to walk. And I said, let's do it. And he tricked me. So this time he was like, let's do it. You ready to do that walk again? Oh yeah, let's do it. So we start walking around and I'm like, whew, all right, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And then next thing you know, I did the whole walk. And then we stopped at a door. I went back to my room. I'm going towards my room. He's like, no, come here, come here. And he redirects and he's like, let's go up to the door right here. So we go up to the door. And I said, nah, that's nothing. So I just went up to the door. He says, how do you feel? Now, I thought we were at the end of my walk. So when you're at the end of something you don't want to do, you start getting all positive, right? So I'm just like, man, I feel great. I'm doing great. You know, whatever, because I'm feeling like it's over. So, I'm doing great. And he says, very good. Boom. And he hits this button. And then you see these doors. And it's a long corridor all the way down. And he's like, we're going to walk there. And I'm like, what? And he was like, you said you feel great, so let's go. And this can't do anything about it. So now, and I'm getting it in. And I'm telling you, but I thank God for him. He pushed me. And that's why, just a day or so later, my surgeon came in the room and said, take those tubes out, take everything out, Mr. Lemon, you can go home. And that's when we left, and that's when I started my real healing program. What I'm saying to you is that I perfectly relate to when everything in your mind says, I don't feel like doing this. When everything in your mind says, I can't do this. I do understand that, especially now. And so I'm empathetic, but at the same time, I'm like, listen, what you'll suffer from not working out is far more uncomfortable and painful than what you will suffer if you don't work out, if you work out. You need to get it done. Why am I making these points? Because a lot of times it seems like people in general, it's not about even God's people, this is people in general. We want to bypass the hard stuff that requires the most discipline, and we just want either a pill or an herb. That's kind of like where we're at in our society today. Just give me a pill or give me an herb and let that thing do all the work while I get to be nice and laid back and continue in my laziness. You will never get healed like that. You'll never get healed. And that's the reason why, again, I leave this example for you. I want you to see this here because it's absolutely imperative. So I want to give you the first thing, because this is the first thing. The first thing is you got to live these out. I need you to ask yourself, what is it of these laws of health you're not doing? Is it that you're not practicing godly trust? Is it that you're not breathing in open air? Is it that you're not getting daily exercise? Or is it that you're not getting out there and getting sunshine even when it's warm? It's actually still warm enough to get sunshine right now. Did you know that? It is still warm enough to get sunshine. So here's a question. How long were you outside today? You understand that? Again, go to Ezekiel 33. Let me show you something. Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel had a challenge, and it's the same challenge that many of God's people face today. In Ezekiel 33, I want you to listen to this. And we're going to look at Ezekiel 33. We're going to consider verses 30 to 33. And this is not just an issue that existed in the days of Ezekiel. This is an issue that exists in our day today. And the question you want to ask yourself is this something that exists in my own heart? All right, so it says in Ezekiel 33, starting at verse 30, it says, "Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, every one to his brother, saying, Come, I pray you." Listen to what they're saying. "Come, I pray you, and hear what is the word that cometh forth from the Lord." Now, let's pause right there. Ezekiel's God's messenger. What were they doing to Ezekiel, God's messenger? What were they doing standing by the walls? Just look at the verse. What were they doing standing by the walls? What were they doing? They're talking against him. You get that? So they're standing by the wall and they're talking against Ezekiel. But notice they're doing it standing by the wall. In modern term today, we'd say they were talking behind your back. You get that? That's what they were doing to Ezekiel. They were talking behind his back. But then when Ezekiel would come up front and say, "Hey, I got a word from the Lord," they would say, "Come, come, come. Let's hear what the word is from the Lord." Are you following that? Now look at verse 31. It says, "And they come unto thee." In other words, they're coming to Ezekiel. "And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people." God is very offended by these folks. "They sit before thee as my people, and they hear your words, but they will" what? "They will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness," those things that they really want in their heart. Then it says, "And lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song, of one that hath a pleasant voice, and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do them not." God is trying to communicate to a world that he's always given his words for the purpose of being followed. Not just to be heard to the point that it just sounds like even a lovely song, but at the end of the day, we won't do it. Night after night, you've been hearing me say, the blessing is in the doing. Remember I kept telling you that? The blessing is in the doing. So the question is not what you know about these things that are on the screen. The question that I'm asking you to ask yourself is, what is it that you're not doing? Okay? Godly trust. If you're not building that up every day, you're going to find that the devil's going to have access to your mind easier. And that's what we talked about for the past 2 nights, the mind cure. You got to build up your trust in God. Number 2, are you breathing in open air? If your air is polluted outside, bring some clear air inside. You can use trees and not trees, but plants. There are certain plants that you can put right in your house, in your living room, and it literally provides oxygen. It provides pure air, and it takes in poison that comes from the paint off of your walls. I'll actually put it up on the screen for you, just so you can see it. In fact, take a look at it. Let's just do a little impromptu movement. Watch this. You can actually do this, and I'm going to recommend that some of you, try to get your cameras out. I see that some of you have cameras and things, I want you to get your cameras out and take a look at this. Take a really, really nice, clear picture. Make sure you get everything and watch this. All right? So if you are not living in, let's say a country environment where you're getting in that pure, fresh air every day, then here's an actual set of house plants. These are plants that you can put in your house. And these plants actually can do a lot. Let me show you what these plants can do here. So you got the areca palm. So what does that do? The areca palm removes indoor chemical toxins. Okay? That's literally what the areca palm does. So you can put that plant in your house, and if you got certain toxicity from the paint on your walls or things going on in your house, these plants literally will take in the poison and give you back oxygen in return, pure air. How about the ficus alii? The ficus alii, right here, removes toxins to purify the air. That little plant, right, or that plant, it's kind of like a little tree. You can put that even if you live in an apartment, even if you're not in a full-size house. Then you have the Dracana janet. It removes, look at this, it removes trichloroethylene. Again, this is another chemical compound we find often in the paint on our